Hey, what's up friends? You get Gypsy back here today with my quarterfinals match in the Pokemon Central Sun and Moon OU tournament. Um, this match we're going up against Altina, who was a guy who has done exceptionally well on the tour so far. He's taken off a number of high-profile names, and it's looking to be a pretty fun series versus him. I scouted some replays of his prior to our match, which I do versus most of my opponents, just to get an understanding of their play style, what teams they like to use. And I did notice that he was a big fan of Tangrowth plus Rotom. He likes that Heatran Rotom Tangrowth core, which was something that was common in a lot of his builds, which is something that Charizard Y just really rips apart. This team was made by my boy NJMP. It's a really solid team, and it's a lot of fun to use, consisting of Protein, Spikes, Greninja, Zard Y, Pheromosa, T-Wave, Stealth Rocks, Ferrothorn, and then we have Lando, and then we got Mamoswine for some power in the back. So it's a really solid team, it's a really fun team to use, and at this point in the meta it was extremely effective. Even now, like, this team is still really solid. Zardwire is such a threat. So looking at his side, he's got that Psychic Spam core with Lele and Mega Zam, which is pretty interesting. He could be Sash Zam, but I do assume this is going to be his Mega Zam. Potentially like hazard stacking with Skarm and Heatran as well, which makes a lot of sense because the Psychic combo do really appreciate hazards wearing down the opponent. But yeah, and then he's got that nasty Fire Water Grass core at the end there, which is really solid and does wall, does pretty well to check the majority of the meta. So we're going to jump into it. He's going to lead off with his Rotom as I lead off with my Pheromosa. Now what this does is it lets me U-turn out, go out into my Ferrothorn just in case he decided to lead off with his Heatran. I could scare it out with a potential high jump kick. If he decided to lead with Lele, I would outspeed. I believe this is a Scarfed Pheromosa. So he does go for the Will-O-Wisp there, and that's fine. I let my Rotom get burnt because Rotom isn't too crucial this game. It's just basically here to set up rocks, potentially get a T-Wave off on the Zam. I believe it is a Shuffle variant of Ferrothorn, so it can tank a Focus Blast and get off that crucial T-Wave if I need to. So he's going to go into Heatran as I set up my Stealth Rocks here. Stealth Rocks are really important for Zard, as it does chip down the Rotom, it does chip down the Heatran, putting it in range of Focus Blast, and it's just really solid to break Skarmory's Sash and to chip things like Lele. So he goes to the Magma Storm here, trapping my Greninja. The reason I go into my Greninja here, I don't actually have coverage to hit this Heatran. I am actually Spikes, Dark Pulse, Hidden Power, Electric, and Gunk Shot, but I bring it in as though I am Specs Ash Greninja, and that is a bluff that you cannot afford to to kind of fuck with, because if he does lose his Heatran here, he really opens himself up to potential Zard X, if I am Zard X, but more so potential Zard Y. So he's going to switch here, as I'm going to take advantage of that, and just set up a layer of spikes. I want to switch out to Tangrowth. And this turn I don't want to be firing for Gunk Shot just yet, because his Tangrowth is at a range of health where he will survive. I'm better off going to my Zard on the potential knockoff or Leaf Storm, and this just gives me free reign to fire off a Fire Blast, as he does go into Rotom here. And this is good, I get to potentially weaken his Rotom. Fire Blast does a solid chunk, it actually crits. He would have lived there, he would have lived with like 10% or so left. I would have then been able to Solar Beam the next turn or just fire off another Fire Blast, which would have taken him out. But he does sack off the Rotom there. It was a sack in a sense, and now he can bring in his Heatran. Now, Heatran is at a range where it will die to a Focus Blast, especially after all the hazard damage it's taken. I haven't really determined his set yet, but the fact that he's Magma Heatran makes me think that he's more than likely an offensive variant. But even if he is a Spit F variant, he's going to go down to Focus Blast here. As we go for Focus Blast and we miss, unfortunately, as this does mean that he can trap us with Magma Storm, getting a really boosted Magma Storm off in the sun and getting that 12% chip, quite frustrating. I then miss another Focus Blast, which means I can't really Roost here, because if he'd gone for Earth Power on my Roost, then he could have really weakened my Zard. But I miss another Focus Blast, unfortunate, as he does go for Earth Power there, predicting my Roost, so solid play on my opponent's part. But now, come on, I just need to hit that third Focus Blast, give me third time lucky. And we do hit the Focus Blast, and down goes the Heatran, which is huge for my team, because now Greninja is more of a threat, because as I said, I didn't actually have coverage to hit that Heatran, barring Dark Pulse, which is probably my strongest move to hit it with. But now in comes the Zam, and I know he's more than likely going to go for a Psychic here, but he does actually go for a Shadow Ball. not sure why he clicked Shadow Ball there. I understand that it does do neutral to Ferrothorn, but I do believe Focus Blast would have killed after psychic damage versus a non-choppable non-choppable Ferrothorn. So maybe he was expecting me to be like max Spadef or something like that, but I'm pretty sure Ferrothorn still goes down. Regardless, he does get the Spadef drop, but I am a Choppable Berry variant, and he's actually he decides not to risk it. Maybe he didn't want to miss the blast, or maybe he didn't have it, but I find that hard to believe, as I do fire off the T-Wave. Had I stayed in there and been able to tank the Focus Blast, it may have been a roll with the Spadef drop, but the T-Wave would have ensured that stuff like my Zard, my Ninja, my Mamoswine, they all outspeed the Alakazam at that point. I don't think Mamoswine outspeeds actually because of the Paralysis nerf, but yeah, Greninja and Zard would have outsped, obviously along with Pheromosa. Pheromosa outspeeds as is, but Skarmory is going to come in and take the T-Wave. I'm just going to switch out this turn, go out into my Zard. I got out into my Greninja, sorry, this turn. Because I can weaken the Skarmory. I do have Rapid Spin on my Pheromosa. If he did decide to get rocks up, I could spin them away later, in case I didn't have anything to break down the Tangrowth. But he does get paralyzed with Scum, and now I can just go for the HP Electric, as he does take this opportunity to set up his rocks, which now means that I can't switch my Zard back in. And if I do want to switch Zard back in, I'm forced to Rapid Spin with Pheromosa. But that's fine because Greninja essentially has this game wrapped up. I do go for the Dark Pulse here, take out the Skarmory, and now he's just going to bring in his Tangrowth, who after the round of spikes is actually going to go down to the Gunk Shot, which is pretty nice. So earlier on in the match he came in at 88%, and it was more of a roll, not in my favor to take him out with the Gunk Shot, hence why I kept it. I couldn't have kept it secret. Also, he could have scouted for Gunk Shot earlier on, which is part of the reason why I didn't choose to reveal it. But Gunk Shot is pretty common on Protein Greninja, so it's not like rocket science to assume that I did have it. But anyway, his Tangrowth is going to go down there. And that is going to be basically the end of game one, because I do go for Dark Pulse here, taking out the Alakazam. I do think that he predicted me to preserve my Greninja for the Gunk Shot versus Tapu Lele and switch out to something like Ferrothorn, in which case he wanted to retain his Magic Guard, hence why he didn't Mega Evolve in case he wanted to switch around with the spikes. So I guess he had to play off a choke there, but I don't. I just click Dark Pulse and we take out the Zam. He could have been like a Life Orb Zam too, that's another possibility, and for some reason just not being a Mega Zam, which doesn't really make much sense, but Life Orb Zam is stronger than Mega Zam, especially under Psychic Terrain, so I can understand that. But Zam's going to go down and my opponent does forfeit. So that was game one, solid 6-0 with a really fun team. And yeah, we're going to move on to game two, so I'll be back with game two. Alright guys, we're back with game two, and yeah, I'm bringing a pretty fun team that I've built. You know, it's a really fun Trick Room team. Call me top tier boy out here with the Altina. It's a really fun team, and I kind of brought a fun team in game two because I felt confident that even if I did lose game two, I could win game three. And I just wanted to have some fun because I had been using fairly standard, really good teams provided by my boys Ricardo and NJMP. But I wanted to bring some, you know, some of my own heat, and yeah, this team is just really fun to use, and I've had a lot of success with it in the past. And looking at his team, if he didn't have the Toxapex, then my Araquanid would really just go in from turn one. Looking at the makeup of my team, my potential Stealth Rockers are Marowak and Bronzong, but realistically, because I have Trick Room, Bronzong is more than likely my Stealth Rocker. Marowak is more than likely a Thick Club attacker. That was sort of what I expected him to think. And leading off with a potential Taunt or Magmatran turn 1 would make a lot of sense on his part, wanting to stop me from getting rocks up, or even just to punish my potential Rocks lead Bronzong. So I am going to decide to lead off with my Bandit or Araquanid. As he does lead off with his Toxapex, so interesting play. Like, had I led off with Bronzong, I would have got rocks up immediately, but he does lead off with Toxapex, and I'm just going to switch out here, wanting to get my rocks up, do exactly that, as he sets up his T-Spikes, which are going to be a bit of a pain for my team. I can understand why he wanted to get the spikes up now, because that means that 4 of the 6 of my team are grounded and will be affected by that, really reducing their ability to, their kind of longevity throughout the match, which is kind of important on a Trick Room, kind of not, but my Trick Room breakers have a lot of bulk, so having that poison on them is really not appreciated. So he's going to go for Scald, just trying to get burns, which is understandable, respectable play. I am going to Trick Room here, And I'm going to switch this turn out into my blue, knowing that I can't get burnt, and I can then fire off a banded Woodhammer. So the reason I go for Woodhammer here is just in case he tried to stay in. He hadn't determined on my set, so I could be like an SC variant, and he doesn't know that. He could have just clicked Haze here, wanting to, or even Sludge Bomb if he had it. But he does make the play of switching out into his Celesteela, so had I gone for Superpower it would have done over half. But yeah, we get a decent chunk off with the Woodhammer, which is important. This now puts him in range of 2 Superpowers even after the drop in the future, so that's good to know. I'm going to go into my Marowak this turn, as he does just fire off the Leech Seed. Now, I know he's more than likely going to click Protect here. The fact that he's showed Leech Seed kind of signals that he has Protect, and we are on a Trick Room currently, so my Marowak will outspeed the Celesteela. So I'm going to stunt and go for the Swords Dance on his Protect. I didn't really lose much bite. If he didn't Protect, his Heavy Slam wouldn't have killed, and I would have still had a, I believe I still would have had a, Trick Room would have subsided, but he wouldn't have been able to 2-hit KO me because Marowak is fat. I'm just going to go for the Shadow Bone here on the switch out to Toxapex, which is huge because we eliminate one of the roadblocks for Araquanid now, which is really nice. Now his only kind of switch into Araquanid is his Tapu Bulu, so if we can weaken that thing, Araquanid's looking in a really solid position to sweep late game. So he's going to bring in his Tyranitar here, which forces a real 50-50. Although you don't see too many Pursuit Tyranitars at the moment, it's more just like, you don't really see Tyranitar too much in general, but this could have been a number of things. It could have been very much a Pursuit variant to trap stuff like opposing Tapu Leles, to trap Latios. Not that anyone really uses Lati, barring like Specs Latios or Scarf Latios. But yeah, he does go into Tyranitar and forces the 50-50. I click Earthquake here because I feel as though Pursuit is his play. Marowak really does threaten his Celesteela, which is a really big roadblock for the majority of my team. So I feel like clicking Pursuit here would have guaranteed him a kill if I did switch out, but he does actually go for the crunch, so he wins the 50-50 there, and this does mean that I can go into my Tapu Bulu here and get a kill. I don't expect him to be a non-choiced variant on this Tyranitar, and if he is, Tapu Bulu loses a Stone Edge anyway from this range of health, so I'm going to go for the Superpower here as he switches in his Celesteela, and he's gonna take a ton from that, and he's looking to be in range now of another Superpower. But he can actually just Protect, which kind of sucks because this puts him at a range of health where he may live the next Superpower. Unfortunate, but that's just what Celesteela does. So he's going to knock me out with a Heavy Slam, outspeeding me outside of Trick Room because I am like a min speed Tapu Bulu. And now in comes Araquanid, and I can really just click Liquidation. He's going to stall out some more poison damage on me whilst getting some more lefties for himself, so definitely a respectable play. As now I am just going to fire off the Banded Liquidation, and that does 56 to a resist, and Tapu Bulu isn't frail. Araquanid is just a god. That is the power, so... in comes Bronzong. We tank the Woodhammer. SE is going to reveal the Z move fighting, which is going to take out my Bronzong. Unfortunate, I am an offensive Bronzong, so that is the reason, a big reason as to why I died. If I was defensive, I probably would have lived the combination of resisted Woodhammer plus all that pummeling unboosted. So Altina going to come in, top tier boy is going to come in, and I am just going to click Trick Room this turn and proceed to Healing Wish my Araquanid. And so the monster is back inside with Trick Room up, and his obnoxious Celesteela is in, and yes, while it can obviously do its Protect shenanigans stalling at my Trick Room, I am probably going to nab another kill here, as this Celesteela will go down to a Liquidation, but he chooses to sack off his Tapu Lele, so understandable, it's not really breaking past Magearna, and this does allow him to go out into something like Celesteela and just Protect once more. So I'm going to go out into my Magearna here, wanting to preserve my health on this in case I can't, in case I do get the opportunity to Trick Room up with Magearna, as he goes out into his Tapu Bulu. Now right here, I'm pretty free to fire off a Trick Room, but from my perspective, he should switch to Heatran straight away to avoid giving me the Soul Boost, as he actually stays in and goes for Superpower. So this was a questionable play in my opinion, because had I Trick Roomed up here, I go for Aura Sphere, predicting him to make the play which he should, of going into Heatran, because had I got the Soul Boost, it's actually a roll to take out Heatran after Rocks. But he goes for Woodhammer here, taking himself out, giving me the soul boost, as another Aura Sphere would have killed from that range, and it also covered him going to Heatran. So I am going to go for the Aura Sphere here, outspeeding the Heatran, but it does live. The roll was more in his favour, but it was a roll nonetheless, and we could have got it, but we don't. And now Magenta is going to go down. So had I switched into Araquanid that turn, I would have been able to live the Lava Plume and get a kill. However, he probably would have preserved this and sacked off Tyranitar and then gone into his Celesteela, which would have made it harder for Magenta to get up Trick Room later on in the match, because he still would have had Heatran around. But I'm just going to go into my Araquanid here, knowing that Trick Room still has a couple of turns left, and I can take out the Heatran. I am getting a bit of Grassy Terrain health back, which is kind of countering the poison, but not so much. Anyway, Celesteela's going to come in here, and he's just going to protect. Makes sense, but it's not going to save him from the power of Araquanid, as Araquanid will be able to kill him next turn after taking a heavy slam. But unfortunately, Trick Room has subsided, so Tyranitar, the threat, will be able to come in and kill us off. So a very fun game with a fun team. It didn't match up all that amazingly versus my opponent. The T-Spikes were definitely a great play turn 1, as they really wore down my offensive mons, but yeah, perhaps I could have played around the Heatran better with my Araquanid at the end game, but yeah, it was also a roll. Like, it was a roll for Aura Sphere to kill at that point, so I went for it. But alas, we did not get it. So that was game 2. And so we move on to game 3. And for game 3, I was confident that I could win. And I do decide to bring a more standard team, not relying on speed control in Trick Room. So we're going to move on to game 3. Alright guys, we're back for game 3 up against Altina. Rocking a pretty fun team, consisting of Defog, Finny. It's a Rocky Helmet Lando, standard Rocky Helmet defensive Lando. Z-move Fire, Volcarona, which is actually such a sick set. Ice Punch, Metagross, Subseed, HP Fire, Leaf Storm, Superior, and Scarf the Lele. So my opponent has a really solid team. He's got the Among Us there, which is a real pain for a lot of teams to deal with. It's annoying for me because I have Superior, but I do have Metagross, Lele with Psychic Terrain support, and Volcarona to really take it on, which is solid, but still annoying nonetheless, as it does love to switch into opposing Tapu Finis. Relying on its Regenerator to heal up Nature's Madness damage. It's just a really solid mon, and he's got the Greninja, which could be Protein, but he has favoured Ash Greninja throughout the tour and throughout our series so far, so I am expecting Ash Greninja. It was very popular around this point, so yeah. He could be Scarfed Garchomp with defensive Lando, but he could also be a Scarfed Lele, as he has brought that to most of his games, and like an SD Garchomp. But I am expecting like a Bolt Beam, Mega Metagross for sure, as his team does appreciate Metagross breaking down a weakening Lando for Garchomp to sweep. So I'm going to lead off with my Tapu Lele, as he leads off with his Garchomp. What this does is it pressures the turn 1 Landorus, it pressures the turn 1 Garchomp. Now, I could fire off a Moonblast or a Shadow Ball, predicting Metagross to come in. Either way, I feel as though Amoonguss would be his mid-ground play. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous to switch Amoonguss into Tapu Lele, but if I go for Shadow Ball here, it's going to 2-hit KO the Metagross, and if I'm Scarfed, I'm going to outspeed and not be threatened by Bullet Punch under Psychic Terrain. So he's in an interesting position. I probably wouldn't lead Lele unless I was a Scarfed variant, so he should be aware of that. But he's going to switch out here and go out into Metagross. So had I Shadow Balled here, this Metagross would be done for after 2. Obviously, he'd probably switch out to preserve his Metagross and go out to something like Amoonguss or Greninja, but I could have got huge damage turn 1 off on the Metagross. But you know, 20% with Psychic isn't too bad either. Like, it's not awful, but I do lose some momentum there. But the Amoonguss play would have lost me more momentum had I gone for the Shadow Ball. I would have had to sack something to sleep straight away, or take a big chunk on my Finny. But he is just going to go for the Earthquake here, dealing respectable damage to my Finny, but we kind of eat, and now I can double here, going into my Volcarona, as he goes in for a Thunder Punch here. The reason I doubled into Volcarona was because Amoonguss is, as I said, a really solid switch into Tapu Finny, so it doesn't care about the Nature's Madness too much, because it does have Regenerator and Black Sludge, so it's healing a lot back. So doubling to Volcarona there would have really capitalized on the potential Amoonguss play. I am under Misty Terrain, so I wouldn't have been threatened by Spore either, so I could have potentially set up, although he does have Water Shuriken and Greninja in the back, so I would have just more than likely fired off a Fire Blast, but he chooses to Thunder Punch instead. Another reason why I don't agree with this is because it would have meant that if had I stayed in and gone for the Nature's Madness, it would have really weakened Metagross for my own Tapu Lele, which, looking at his team, really threatens him. You know, Greninja can't reliably switch in and tank Psychics because it could be threatened by Moonblast, and the rest of his team is just really decimated by Tapu Lele. So, questionable play, but it pays off for him as I do double out, not wanting my Volcarona to die, as it is one of my win cons. I got into my defensive Landorus as we tank the Thunder Punch, but now he's going to fire off the Ice Punch. So Bolt Beam is confirmed, and we get that chip. I'm going to go for the U-turn here. Another reason I went for U-turn is because, in my opinion, I do think he should preserve this Metagross. It is a great check to a lot of my team. It can tank a +2 Hidden Power Fire from a really high amount of health from my Superior. It can check Lele, it can check my own Metagross because it has Earthquake. I just don't really agree with him sacking here, as it does put him in a really shit situation later on in the match, but he chooses to stay in, and we get that chip damage with the helmet, and we do get the U-turn damage off. Now this means we can go into our Superior and scare him out with the HP Fire. As we do, we just test the waters. Like, again, he'd been willing to sack off his Metagross, so I just went for the HP Fire, just in case he did decide to stay in. But he does go out into his Amoonguss here. I'm going to sub in case he wanted to make some sort of double on that turn. I'm trying to capitalize on like my Metagross switching in or something like that. But he does go for the Sludge Bomb here, just breaking my sub, so he's not risking Superior or any Superior shenanigans. But yeah, we're going to switch out here and go into Metagross this turn as he fires off the Spore, so good play on my opponent reading the switch out to a Steel. But it's fine, I can wake up my Metagross later on in the match. I do go for the first turn wake there, but I don't get it. This turn I am going to go for the Ice Punch. I know Earthquake won't kill my Metagross, and I could potentially get a second turn wake, but we don't get it, and he goes for the Earthquake. But again, kind of questionable play. Had I gone into Landorus, my own defensive Landorus, who I'd shown to be Rocky Helmet, he would have lost a lot of momentum there. I would have been able to get up rocks and U-turn out, but he does decide to go out to Greninja this turn. As I do go for the third turn wake, I don't get the third turn wake. Very unfortunate. I wanted to weaken his Lando for my Metagross to sweep and to really put him work late game. I wanted to weaken it for my own Landorus. I wanted to weaken it for Volcarona, put it in range of Leaf Storm and Fire Blast, but we don't get the third turn wake either, so unfortunate. I'm going to go out into my Tapu Fini here as we can eat up the Dark Pulse on Greninja. With the lefties, we're going to be in a pretty solid position as I'm going to make the switch out here, out into Lele, trying to capitalize on his obvious Amoonguss switch in. Finally, he switches in Amoonguss into Tapu Fini, and we do get that right, as now I can just fire off a Psychic. So it does 41% to Tapu Lele, and now I can just stay in here and 2 KO it. If he wants to go for Shadow Ball, that would have been a fine play, but I don't really have the best of switch-ins to this Tapu Lele now that my Metagross is so weakened, so my aim is to just weaken it down with my own Scarf Tapu Lele. So he's going to go for the Moonblast here. I'm going to switch out this turn, not wanting to give him a free switch into Greninja or Metagross. As I go out into my Superior, knowing I can tank a Moonblast if he does want to go for it, but he does go out into his Greninja, which is in a really good position for me now because he can't kill me with Specs Dark Pulse. His play is to U-turn here. I'm going to stay in here in case he reveals Ice Beam and just fire off the Leaf Storm, but we miss the Amoonguss, which is not too unfortunate, as Amoonguss wouldn't have been, like, Leaf Storm does 0 to Amoonguss anyway. It just would have been, yeah, it was kind of irrelevant. He would have got his health back with Black Sludge. So we're going to go into Metagross here on the Sludge Bomb, as now we can definitely wake up, because it has been 4 turns. We've got the longest sleep, like, longest turns of sleep in history, as now I can go for the Ice Punch, in case he did want to switch out into his Landorus or his Garchomp. So I'm going to switch out again, go into my Tapu Fini, as he does fire off another Dark Pulse. Like, it's always 50-50s with this Specs Ninja, because he could go for the U-turn. I think U-turn was his play regardless, as it probably killed my Metagross from the range of health it's at, but he does just choose to go for the Dark Pulse, as Fini can now switch in, and I can fire off a Moonblast. I fire off a Moonblast because I did show that I was comfortable doubling to Lele in previous turns of the match on his Amoonguss, and so just in case he decided to get wild and go for another Dark Pulse, I go for the Moonblast there. But we get the special attack drop on Amoonguss, which is nice, because now I have Misty Terrain up, he can't spawn my team. I can go out to Volcarona and tank Giga Drain with ease. Now, again, I could set up here. He has the special attacks are up, so Sludge Bomb will not kill me, and I have Misty Terrain up, so I can dodge a Spore from his Amoonguss. So his play 100% is going out to Greninja to prevent my Volcarona from getting out of control. What it also does is Greninja tanks a Fire Blast in the range of health it's at. So you already know we're going to click Giga Drain here as on the Amoonguss. As he brings in the Greninja, who would have lived a Fire Blast, and we get all that juicy health back. So Volk is looking in a solid position now. It's going to have an easier time switching into Sludge Bombs from Amoonguss. It's going to have a better chance at sweeping late game too. So in comes Garchomp. I am going to switch out here and go into my Landorus, which just covers the Earthquake play or the Dragon Claw play, getting chip on him. He reveals not to be a Scarfed variant of Garchomp, as I do get the Hidden Power Ice off on the Garchomp, which does a solid chunk. Hidden Power Ice also covered his own Landorus play in case it was a defensive Landorus and not a Rocks Garchomp. Yeah, but we're in a pretty solid position now, except he has Rocks up, so I am going to want to remove those pronto as he does go into his own Lando, which means I can go into my Metagross and fire off an Ice Punch. He's going to switch out this turn, go into Garchomp, sacking it off and killing my Metagross in return, which is a good play on his part, wanting to preserve his Landorus. I believe that could be Double Dance Landorus, as I do think his Tapu Lele is a Scarfed variant. As now I can bring in my Lele, but he brings in his Metagross, which obviously forces me out. I can weaken the Metagross's attack here with Intimidate, getting some chip on it with the Rocky Helmet, which now guarantees that my Finny will be able to defog on it, even if it does have Thunder Punch, which it has shown earlier. So he knows he can't kill me here, as he decides to go out to Lele, wanting to get momentum on my likely defog there. So Lele can't actually kill me here. You're going to see his Psychic misses out on the kill, and we are able to take out the Lele, which is really solid for us. In comes Metagross, and I'm just going to sack off my Finny here because it doesn't do much for the rest of the game. It's kind of at a range of health where it can't do anything, and it's hard wall by Amoonguss. So I bring in Superior, and I am just going to go for the substitute here, as Amoonguss does come in. Now, the only reason I stay in here is because I want to get some more lefties back, in case he does have Bullet Punch with Metagross, as now he's going to break my substitute with a Sludge Bomb. And I know he's more than likely going to click Sludge Bomb once more, so I do switch out to my Volcarona here, as we do tank the Sludge Bomb. And Volcarona can't kill Amoonguss. The standard Amoonguss spread that's running around at the moment is really specially defensive, because Greninja was everywhere at this point, Specs Greninja was everywhere at this point, and unboosted, no boosting item, Fire Blast, guaranteed cannot kill Amoonguss from this range of health. And if I go for Fire Blast, Amoonguss can live and get off a Spore, which essentially wins him the game. If I Quiver Dance, and if I Fire Blast, he can Spore me too. So his play 100% in my opinion is staying in and clicking Spore. My play 100% is clicking Z-Move Fire Blast and blowing this Amoonguss right back. So Amoonguss is dead. Superior, the threat, is now inside. Metagross is going to come in and take out my Volcarona. And that's completely okay, because Superior can come in here, wrap things up with a Leaf Storm. The crit didn't matter, he was guaranteed in range of Leaf Storm from max special attack Superior. As in comes Landorus, and Landorus is indeed a dancing variant, and he's going to die to the +2 Leaf Storm. So that was a really, really fun series versus Altina. A very good player, and I did really thoroughly enjoy that. Even though we caught a loss game 2 with a fun Trick Room team, it was still fun to bring a Heat team like that to this tournament. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a longer one. It was definitely probably the most competitive one I've had so far. And you know, despite the 6-0 game 1, it was a really, really solid series. So hope you guys enjoyed. We're now on to the semi-finals. My next game versus a very good player. So that is going to be exciting. I'm not going to say anything more about that until we get there. But yeah, next one should be a good one. So hope you guys enjoyed.